Hi, everybody. Cruising on the water with high speed electric boats that glide smoothly thanks to groundbreaking hydrofoil technology is now reality, all thanks to this company's signature boat, the 8S. Let me introduce Edorado. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Builder Nation. Today, we are joined by Godert van Hardenbroek, CEO and founder at Edorado. Welcome, Godert.
Hi,
Thank you very
Sam.
much for joining us. Could you please introduce yourself a
Good.
little bit?
Hi, Sam. Yeah, so my name is Godert van Hardenbroek. I'm currently in the Netherlands in a maritime manufacturing area close to Rotterdam. Rotterdam is quite a famous port, and we've been developing this amazing boat for the last couple of years.
It does seem amazing, actually. I was taking a look at your website, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of like these super futuristic kind of vehicles, right? In
Mm.
air, in sea, in land, etc. I really
Mm.
like it. In fact, recently we had an interview with another person who is actually creating like silent yachts type of thing. It was
Yeah,
a pretty cool interview, and the opening question with him was just before we jump into the whole tech and the whole things
yeah.
that you're doing at Edorado Marine, the question is, how did you sort of land in that industry? What sort of made you set sail, if you will,
Yes.
into these very unique and very particular technology and boats?
So I have a background in design. I went to a school called the Design Academy, and already there I was intrigued by the question of how can we make, you know, uh, our lifestyles sustainable?
Hmm.
Because it's clearly that we have something needs to be done about climate change, and
Yes.
there's a long list of topics that we need to address, and but at the same time, I was always intrigued by speed. Actually, I think I'm a bit of
Mm.
a speed freak. I like fast, a bit like your introduction. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm fascinated by fast cars, by racing, by speed boats, fast sailing. I mean, rockets. Of course, we're all inspired by what's happening
Right.
there. I think in the last couple of years, um, and I think a lot of people share that fascination. It's a very human thing to like speed, and and also at the same time, I thought when the environmental movement sort of got going, there was a lot, sort of a push for efficiency, and going fast is typically not a very efficient. Well, there is efficiency involved,
Hmm.
but for instance, if you have something like the eco marathon, I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I
The eco
haven't.
marathon is like a race to get as much mileage out of a liter of gasoline, for instance.
Oh.
And they make it's a student competition. They make sort of these cigar-shaped vehicles, and they get ridiculous high efficiency numbers, but they also have a minimum speed because if you allow them to do, to push the limit of efficiency, they
Yeah.
will go at crawling speed because that's the most efficient. Um, and I thought that was a mistake in a way. Like the environmental movement, I think, made a thinking error
Hmm.
that this is the goal. This is not the goal. The goal is not to go as slow as possible. I think the goal is to go as fast as possible, but compatible with the environment. So be
Right.
sort of be eco, like be zero emissions and fast. So that's where I came from, and
Hmm.
and um, well, it's bit of a longer story to it, but I was working mostly on zero emission racing. So
Hmm.
uh, hydrogen racing is one of the things that I've done, and battery electric racing, like developing cars that go fast with zero emissions. Sort of you could say we were like with the company was called Formula Zero, and we were doing hydrogen and fuel cell racing. So we were
Hmm.
like the sort of the intellectual father of Formula E, if you want.
Wow.
Um, we were very early. 2003, we started with Formula Zero.
Right.
Um, and then that company failed. I mean, like there's not many hydrogen cars out there at the moment, and it's all battery electric. So Formula Zero didn't make it, but it was a very interesting thought exercise, and we went
Yeah.
pretty far. And but at a certain point, I had to say, okay, this is it, like enough.
Yeah, you had to know the
So
limit, right?
yes. And then I did something completely different. I moved to Shanghai, China,
Mm.
and I started teaching about sustainable design at a big
Hmm.
university, University, and and there I also started teaching. So I started a race team, battery electric, Formula Student Electric. So the students they build the race cars every
Wow,
year,
that's cool.
and yeah, that was pretty cool. And so I was in China for 4 years,
Hmm.
and in China I met my co-founder Giel Groothuis, and he approached me. He saw what I was doing with the student and the batteries and the racing,
Hmm.
and he approached me he said, I want to do a speedboat. So if we can do it together, it can be a clean speedboat, electric
Wow.
speedboat.
And
So that's how
how?
it started.
Right, right. I mean, it's a very long story, as you mentioned. It's pretty cool. I'm very curious though. How hard was it to change sort of your mentality, right, or your mindset from cars, electric vehicles, or hydrogen-powered cars into speedboats? Is there a big difference between these two mobility devices?
Yes. So also, I was a bit reluctant to be honest in the beginning because I was so focused on cars. But the interesting thing is that I was as a child I used to sail a lot.
All
So
right.
I would every summer I would go out on the lakes and rivers and in small, always pretty small
Yeah.
sailing boats and just play with the wind, and I really really
Hmm.
really loved that. And so that kind of, I don't know, it woke the water sports
Hmm.
side of me, and I really liked the industry. I thought the industry was really nice, actually. Uh, um, just so, and I think in your briefing you also mentioned something about sort of the marine industry being quite, how do you say, sort of conservative. There's not a lot of change happening.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
sort of small iterations on the same theme. And when I looked at that industry, I thought, wow, there's such a big opportunity. Um, so I really got involved, yeah. Also because
Hmm.
the boats are pretty polluting. Well, they're very polluting, actually. Like,
Yeah. Actually, that is one of the questions that I wanted to go for. Now,
yeah,
one of the main topics of the conversation I had over at the Sailing Jacks company was
yeah,
precisely
yeah,
about pollution, but also about noise, right? I mean, and I believe
yes,
anybody who has ever been on a on a boat knows this. They are
yes,
loud. So,
yes.
how did you first encounter this obstacle, and how did you first choose to address it?
Well, so if the reasoning is like you want to go high speed but zero emissions, then obviously you look at doing something electric.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, the whole world is transitioning to electric, and for good reason.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so with electric come several how do you say advantages.
Hmm.
So the one big thing is the one you mentioned is noise.
Right.
So it's very silent, very quiet. And then the second important thing, well, the first is no emissions, and
Right.
second is
Right.
very little noise. But I also think that something like smell is very important. If you're out in nature, then th those fumes are terrible, you know? It's
Yes.
like it's not pleasant at all. So it's very counter um, contra to what a nature experience is. Like a nature experience, it should be like you become sort of one with nature. You morph with it in a way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And by making noise and emitting these fumes, and also local emissions like oil spills and
Mm-hmm.
particulate matter like soot and nitrogen oxide, and all these things they're really not nice. And then the
Yeah.
smell. So electric has many advantages in that area. So that is a kind of the no-brainer part.
Yeah.
Um, but the obstacle you ask for, sort of for obstacles, I mean the clear obstacle is is energy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you like in Detroit, they would say before Tesla changed the game, they would say like the best replacement for gasoline is gasoline. In other words, like nothing
Yeah. Nothing. Right.
replaces, because it's amazing, the energy density of a liter of gasoline is like it's unheard of. It's like you have this little volume,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not so heavy, and it's small, and you can store it and you can transport it, and there's like so much energy. There's like
Mm-hmm.
60 times more energy in a kilo of gasoline than in a battery. It's like a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand the reason why gasoline has been the reigning fuel of pretty much of all time, really.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
more than coal, and it is
Yes.
because of this, right? But I completely also
Yes.
understand that. I mean, it is definitely time to sort of change these methods, and that actually takes me to a very different question, right?
Yeah.
Following already the developments that you've been doing, within Edorado, right? Which is
Yeah.
precisely about the battery technology and the electric propulsion technology that you've been working on. How or what type of advancements have you been doing, like inside or in-house, to try and really maximize the efficiency of these batteries and of these electric motors?
Well, the obvious thing is that we are using hydrofoils, right? So we call it flying. We take the whole gets lifted out of the water, and we have wings that carve through the water. It's like
Yeah.
it is literally flying. It's not flying through the air, but it's flying through a different medium, which is water.
Right.
It's still flying. And I mean, hydrofoils have been around for more than 100 years. So the technology, or say the principles, were there. Um, but there before there was gasoline. So you know, if you had a problem, you just add more gasoline and the problem goes away. And now we don't have that luxury anymore, right? So when we started developing an electric speedboat, like if you work on the numbers, it very quickly becomes clear that a planing hull, like a normal
Mm-hmm.
boat that sort of drags through the water, like a planing hull,
Right.
that the numbers are really horrible. Like a planing boat just consumes like 15 times more energy than a car per mile, for instance. And then and it's super inefficient. So so it became very quickly clear that just if you want to go high speed, then planing and batteries are not a good
Mm-hmm.
marriage. They don't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
And hydrofoils really are the obvious way out of that. I mean, they reduce the drag by like up to 80, like more than 80% even if you do your job well.
Right.
That so that is sort of that enables. Remember, I just said that how much energy uh, gasoline compared to
Yeah. This
battery,
energy density. Uh-huh.
the energy density. But well, first of all, a combustion engine is terrible at energy management. I mean, the
Right.
combustion
Right.
engine just blows away 60%, like just to
Yes.
start,
Easy. Yeah.
uh, and easy, exactly. And and then on top of that, you have the planing hull. So that makes a conventional speedboat a terrible energy hog. But if you don't use a combustion engine and you reduce the drag by 80%, now
Hmm.
we're getting in an area where the energy density of batteries starts to make sense for high speed boating and with a reasonable range. I mean, actually going fast with an electric boat is not hard at all. I mean, power is never the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Batteries are like power, just like a
right.
short
You
burst of
can
power.
stack them if that's the problem. Like you can stack plenty batteries on top of each other. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so actually, stacking batteries,
Mm.
no, because stacking batteries would make it heavy, and a boat is weight
Oh, that is
sensitive.
true.
So,
Right.
so our calculation, like we kept on adding batteries in the just in the numerical study, you
Uh
add batteries and you add more batteries, and you see
huh.
that some of the prototypes in the companies in the world they do it like massive battery,
Right.
but the boat is weight sensitive, so somewhere in the equation there's a M for mass, and it just doesn't get better.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you have to reduce the drag,
Hmm.
and then you get somewhere that it starts to make sense.
Right. Now, I want to ask you, now that we're already on this
Yeah.
topic of how you designed it and the whole
Yeah.
calculations of everything. First of all, just I want to take it back just a couple steps. For anybody out
Yeah.
there who might not be familiar with it, could you give us a brief explanation of what the hydrofoil is in a boat?
Yeah, so a hydrofoil is it's a wing-shaped it has the shape of an airplane wing.
Hmm.
So with a sort of the long side on the top and the shorter side on the bottom.
All right.
And that creates if you move it through a medium with at a certain speed or at speed, then you get a lower pressure on the top and a higher pressure on the bottom, and that creates lift. And
Hmm.
lift is what you want. So it is actually it's like a wing. We call it wings, and
Yes.
you push them through the water, and then like the forward motion creates lift, and the lift pushes the boat out of the water. And
Right.
that's the essence of a hydrofoil. And then if you go a bit further, then you can say, okay, that is great, but how do you keep that stable? Because
Hmm.
um, this is really a problem because the it's like it's called inverted pendulum. It's like
Okay.
you try to balance a broom. Have you ever done a like you put
Yes.
a broom on your
Yeah.
hand?
And you try to balance it off. Right.
Exactly. It's called inverted pendulum.
Okay.
And you can do it, but it takes quite a bit of control, right?
Right.
And with a hydrofoil boat, this is a problem because the foils are underneath and the boat is on top. So this is what the balance looks like.
Right.
Um, and in that sense, it's fundamentally different than most planes. Like in a plane, you have sort of the wings here and the center of gravity here.
Yeah.
And if you turn off the whole engine and turn everything off, the controls, it'll glide,
Yes.
right? But our boat, if you turn off the controls, it'll fall over.
Wow.
So
It's just gonna go back to the water. Wow.
yeah, it'll fall.
Right. Well, thank you for explaining us the catastrophic possibilities of hydrofoil. No, I'm just kidding. It's great to know
Yeah, I
what
mean
it is.
it's sort of the engineering challenge,
Yes,
right?
exactly, and that is precisely where I was going for. Um, Coming from cars, hydrofoils is pretty much inexistent in this industry, right? Like there's just nothing that compares to these technologies. So how complicated was it to actually first learn about these hydrofoils and then
Yeah.
work on actually creating a boat that can take advantage of hydrofoils safely?
Yeah, so that's sort of the next step. So there's all this logic, right? There's
Right.
sustainability, then high speed, then electric, then a planing boat is a problem, then
Hmm.
hydrofoils, and then the next step is okay. So what type of hydrofoil do we choose,
Right.
and what is the geometry, and how do we go about it? And we've been doing s- uh, sort of a really small step. So if you have a big problem, the best way to go about it is chunk it into smaller problems,
Right.
right?
Small
You
goals.
just small goals, and you eat a chunk once at a time. You
Hmm.
can't eat an elephant in one day, right? So you have to eat it in chunks.
Right.
And if you plan to eat an elephant,
It's not it's not in my plan, but
no, okay, well, it's sort of our plan. So and at Edorado, we've been developing sort of scale models. So we started with a 1 to 5 model, and then a 1 to 2 scale model. So the 1 to 2 scale model
all
is a
right.
4 meter boat
Ooh.
with like the configuration looks very much like the one we have.
Hmm.
If you go on our YouTube channel, there's still a video of it. You can see it's like a remote controlled, it looks like a drone.
A four
Um,
meter drone, though, but
a
okay.
4 meter drone is it's
It's pretty
pretty
large.
impressive. Yeah, it's a pretty impressive machine. Um, but it had all the technology in it.
Hmm.
Um, and it's interesting that it's quite a cheap way to develop technology. I mean, scaled um, prototypes are really quite affordable, and you
Right.
learn a lot, and you can iterate quickly because the parts are not so big, and like you just take out a new front foil, new rear
Hmm.
stern foil, uh, new battery, new controls, new sensors. You just go tick 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 tick, new software,
Right.
and that worked really well. And now we're at the stage that we have an 8 meter prototype, fully functioning, flying, doing what we want, and we're about like we still have to integrate some of that technology in the final boat, which is the process we're in now.
Right.
So that we're at the cusp of having the launch edition with everything on it.
Right. I mean, in the end, the point of launching is for it to be flawless, right?
Yes,
In every
well,
way, or as
yeah.
much as it can possibly be, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
In
This
the
is a
end,
this is a always a nice challenge
yes, yes, yes,
to manage.
and that is exactly what I wanted to ask you. Like, what were some of the most, I guess, unexpected flaws that you found during these prototypes or these iterations, or maybe just not flaws, but things that you found out? Huh, we could definitely make this better that you just couldn't even see coming.
Well, um, let me think. Yeah, there's many actually. There's so maybe and also like I don't want to be too specific about the technical lessons that we learned
Right.
because we paid a price to learn them.
Yes, of course, of course. I'm not asking for the
Uh,
secret sauce here.
no, no, no. But in a way, like every time something failed, we learned something, and we failed many, many, many times. Like in small and big areas, we
Right.
we had lessons, and but I think uh, the one of the things that we try to do in this company is really be a like encourage learning. So
Hmm.
so I always say like it's making mistakes is not a bad thing. Like I don't I'm not I will not get mad. I'm not disappointed if something goes wrong.
Right.
But if you don't learn from it, that is a problem.
Yes, I agree with that. In fact, there is this the very cool phrase. It's, I believe, from a from a series or a movie. I can't really remember it, but it's like
Yeah.
that you learn a lot from failure and not so much from success.
Yes.
That's sort of the engineering mindset, I believe, that perfectly aligns with
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean it's quite a bit easier said than done
Yes.
because failing also hurts. It's painful. It's like it costs money, it costs time, it's disappointing. You
Right.
like you can lose faith, and so our boat crashed several times, and it broke down many times, and it wouldn't take off, or it wouldn't remain stable, or like we've done it all, right?
Wow. I would
Yeah.
actually like to poach your founder and CEO brain in this topic, because I do
Yes.
believe that
Go ahead.
one of the most common reasons, I would say, why startups might fail, or sort of might go under or just don't continue, it's precisely because of these, right? Failure sort of accumulates, and
Yes.
maybe a person can get to the point where you said, right, that you sort of feel disappointed and you sort of want to just throw the towel. During
Yes.
these times that this happens to you, maybe not necessarily only at Edorado, but in general throughout your
Yeah.
career, how have you personally found your way out of this blocker to really come back stronger?
Well, I think it's mm, in its essence, it's about a sort of personal motivation. Like, why are you in the game in the first place? Um, I think if you're in this game to
Hmm.
think because you think you're going to make money, it's not enough. It won't be enough of a driver if you like standing
Hmm.
in a like until your knees in cold water with a broken part in your hand. Like, it's not that's not gonna it's not enough. So uh, I think the there's something about a passion for what we do
Hmm.
that drives people here. Um, and for me personally, I think the work on the environment is has always been a very key thing. I think the what the world needs now is radical change. And the change looks, what does that look like? It's like people might like me, you know, trying new avenues. That's what that looks
I
like. It's a
agree.
human thing, right? Like
Yeah,
the problem is created by human beings. It has to be solved by human beings. Like, it's not,
absolutely.
otherwise the problem will solve us, it will get rid of us. Yeah, it's like
Absolutely, yeah.
it's not a complicated question, right? Unless we get to grips with it, then we're out of here.
Yeah, simple question, yeah.
Yeah. So that is very motivating. I think um, that really drives me, and I try to convey that drive to everybody around it, everybody in the team, and also the people like investors and customers. Like, we are in a transition that is tough, but it's
Yes.
possible, and it's actually really, really exciting. So I think that the future is really, it's better than yesterday. It's not worse. Like, we don't need a minimum speed. The minimum speed is a bad idea. You
Right.
know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in that. This minimum speed slows down, just development and progress. And I'm very curious. You already brought this up, right? And following
Yeah.
this path, sort of this CEO life that you've
Yeah.
been having, about investors. I'm very curious.
Yes.
How do you present such a disruptive project to an investor, hoping they're gonna, well, invest in your company? It's just
Yeah.
very groundbreaking to the point where it might seem even a little scary, right? So how do you do it?
Yes. Um, well, I mean, for investors, they're sort of, if it's just a financial question for them especially at the early stage, then that's
Right?
probably a tough sell, because I mean, you can invest your money in many things,
Right.
and something like this is rather risky. Um, so there has to be a component where you agree about sort of creating a sustainable future, and understanding that people that understanding the proposition, right? So our lead investor, who is Steven Schuurman,
Hmm.
I mean, it's public knowledge that he is one of our investors. He resonated with the proposition. Like, he told when I met him, he told me that that he went out with some friends on a yacht, and it was they had a fun afternoon, and it was a fast yacht, and at the end it needed like 400 liters of diesel. And he
Wow.
said, I felt so dirty. Yeah, but this is normal. Like if you ever go on a powerboat,
Yeah, but
like
I believe you
in an
never.
afternoon,
I believe one as the user, the renter, you never really think of these numbers. It's a lot.
no, it is a lot. It's like it's compared to a car is like crazy for an afternoon of fun,
Yeah.
in nature. So it's wrong. And so he immediately resonated with this, that this is something that's wrong and it should change.
Hmm.
So there's a sort of a on the mission side, there was a recognition. And then, I mean, when the figures increase, when the numbers increase, when the amount of money that is required
Hmm.
increases, the financial gains and the sort of returns have to be more clear and have to be more realistic, and they have to be attractive because you're competing for money in a market. For the market for money, has options. If you have money, if you have a million
Hmm.
to invest, you can go real estate, software, like crypto.
Yeah, you have options, definitely.
You really have options, right? So
Right.
you have to be uh, quite clear on what is the market's potential, and what is the potential of this of your proposition.
Hmm.
So it becomes so it's so to summarize, it starts off more like a visionary thing with where you sort of have a feeling, yeah, there must be a market for that, to where it becomes less about the vision and more about the vision is still important, but sort of it becomes more an economical proposition. It
Yes,
has to make
yes.
sense. It has to, and it has to be de-risked. So there, in the beginning, is a lot of risk, a lot of vision, and then it has more return and less risk.
Yeah, it's the famous high risk, high reward versus low risk, low reward type of model.
Yeah. So, but that transit that's a progressive dialogue. The dialogue changes.
Right. Now, I'm very curious. Have you found yourself sort of trying to educate or having to educate not only investors but public in general about the benefit of these speedboats? I'm asking because I find it very curious how a professor really uh, it is said, right, that that if once a professor you never stop teaching. So I'm very curious though. Have you found that public in general, investors, etc., have a lot to learn about electric vehicles, just past cars, maybe into already boats and motorboats and stuff?
Yes. In the way this industry is just getting started.
Right.
So percentage wise, I don't think we're even at the. I would be if we're past 1% of the market, I'd be
You're
happy.
surprised, right?
Yeah, and
Mm.
so if you think about sort of there's this in theory of of introduction innovations, right? And it
Hmm.
talks about the inventors, and then the early adopters and the late adopters,
Right,
you
right.
know, and early majority, late majority. And so the sort of the cutoff point between inventors and early adopters is around 1.5% or something like that.
Hmm.
So we're getting close to that point where we're not there yet. Um, so yeah, a lot of education will have to be done. Like there's no doubt.
Yes, yes,
It's
definitely. I mean, this already even is an education format, right? So people can be aware that these type of companies exist, which is pretty cool.
yes,
And
yes,
talking about these companies, I want to really go back to the tech, right? Because in
yeah.
the end, it is the biggest spine that I wanna touch, right?
Okay, cool.
Um, Talking about the 8S already, okay? This final
Yes.
iteration, this final product that you're gonna launch, that is already on the line for getting an award. I believe it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. We've been nominated for a European Powerboat of the Year, and then in the category electric. So there's I think 4 nominations, and we're one of them. So we're
Wow.
very excited about that for 2024. So we can
Uh-huh.
become boat of the year 2024.
Yeah, I
Fingers
mean,
crossed.
fingers crossed. It would be amazing. And
Yes.
I'm very curious. Um, this first iteration of this boat, the 8S, right, as you mentioned, is
Yes.
the result of a lot and a lot and a lot of failures, right?
Yes.
But inversely,
Well,
what is one of the what is one of the things that you are most proud of when it comes to the design or the build or the development of the 8S, engineering wise?
engineering wise, well, I think um, yeah. So the integration of the hydrofoil system. So it's really not a retrofit. It's not like we've taken a design of a
Oh.
boat and then we added foils. It's really from the ground up designed as a hydrofoil boat. And then if you dig a bit deeper, then the retraction system. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, somewhere in your in this our discussion before, you also talk about sort of feedback from the market, right?
Yes.
So we really like early on we did not retract the hydrofoils. The hydrofoils were just there. We were thinking like, a sailboat doesn't retract the keel necessarily.
Yeah.
So why should we retract the foils? I mean, if sailors can do it. But there we got really the feedback of the motorboat community
Mm-hmm.
that they were reluctant about that. Like, I don't know, it's like sticking out, and can I put it on a trailer? And
Right, right,
can I
right.
put it on my boat lift? Can I
Yeah,
put
makes
it in my
sense.
boat house, or can I put it in a marina? So
Right, makes sense.
retraction was really is quite a theme, and I mean, they're a bit well, I wouldn't say fragile. We have quite robust hydrofoils, but they
Uh-huh.
stick out, So if you hit a rock or something, yeah, there will be damage. So it's nicer if it's like inside. So that we
Right,
spent quite a
right.
lot of time on integrating it, and then integrating it that it that it's sort of inside the hull, not sticking through, the living quarters, so to speak. So
Right, not like a mass style sort of
yeah, 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 exactly.
right.
And
Wow.
I think that's really that worked out really well. So it's a very flat surface. We created a very flat surface where you can make any kind of layout on top of
Mm-hmm.
that. And from the stern to the bow, it's a flat floor, which is very important for a boat. You can just walk,
Right,
right? So there's no obstacles, there's no motor in the middle, or like this is just you can walk straight through.
right.
And
That's impressive.
yeah, yeah. So, and you can store it, you can put it on a trailer, yeah, you can put it on a boat lift. I think that's it's a very integrated approach. It's also very much um, sort of a balance between engineering requirements and user requirements, or
Mm-hmm.
design approach, like a
Right.
user-centric design. And we try to really balance engineering and the user, because if you let the engineers decide everything, you get something that's very efficient and very practical. Well, very it works very well,
Right, right.
but it's not really for people.
It's not pretty, basically.
And it's not pretty. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs. He always used to say like that Apple would operate at the crossroads of technology and the fine arts, right?
Right.
And I really like that idea, that the fine arts is a really human element. It's about
Yeah.
human beings central, and then technology. And if you combine those two, something really special happens.
Right. I agree with you on that. I mean, I definitely also agree with what you said. That is that if you let engineers build everything, it's gonna work,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna be
Yeah.
user friendly, and it's definitely
No.
gonna be the prettiest thing. So
No.
it's cool to know that you have all of these sort of crossroads, as you mentioned, also in mind. Because I mean, if you take a
Yeah.
look at the 8S on your website, it's a beautiful design. It's very minimalist and everything. But now I want to precisely talk about the specifications of it, right?
Yes.
I mean,
All
it's an
right.
electric boat in the end. So my very first
Yeah.
question is, what's the autonomy looking like for one of these boats?
Yeah. So around 75 kilometers, or let me say that correctly because there's always the units. I think we're something like 40 nautical miles.
All right.
So that is just the normal miles, American mile. Like, what's your standard
Oh, we
kilometers?
also use kilometers here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So 70 kilometers, 75 kilometers at
Right.
speed. So at cruising speed, at flying speed. So
Okay.
you do 25 knots, sort of 35 kilometers per hour.
Mhm.
Is that correct? Yeah,
Yeah, I
34
believe sort of.
or
Let's
40.
figure it out over here. 25 knots, 2 kilometers per hour. We're talking about 46
Oh
kilometers
yeah,
per hour
46. Yeah, yeah,
approximately.
yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you're going pretty fast
It's pretty
at
fast,
cruising
yeah.
speed, 25 knots. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty fast. And then and you can do that for roughly an hour and 45 minutes, sort of. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely not like you're gonna have a speedboat and you're gonna travel the whole coast, right?
Well, people think they do, but they usually don't.
No, no. I mean, it's not a use case for a high-speed boat. It's definitely not a use case.
Well, there are use cases where they do it, but most people, they just go out for they cruise somewhere for 20 minutes. They go
Hmm.
for a swim, have a drink,
Right.
you know,
It's more about this
they
sort of
potter
tourist
around.
kind of
Yeah,
use.
it's
Yeah.
like it's I think this range makes it really functional,
Yes, I
and
agree.
um, and um, and you can also go pretty fast. I mean, if you can't if you can go fast, but you totally kill the range, then that's not good, you know. But you can go
Hmm.
fast and still have a decent range. So that's really there's a lot of use cases for this. Um, I'm 100% convinced.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with you as well. Now, I do have one question, which is regarding the
Yes,
charging. Now, we've
yes,
seen a very massive trend lately of electric vehicles to turn sort of charger agnostic in a sense, right? So that you
yes,
can,
yes,
you can go to any supercharger station, plug in your
yeah,
car, no matter if it's a Tesla, if it's a Toyota, if it's whatever
yes,
car.
yeah.
Is the same sort of applicable for speedboats, or do you need a specific charging station for it?
Yeah, this is interesting. I think this is where the industry is lagging the car industry a bit, um, because there's not so much demand yet.
Right.
Um, but so in reality, like practically, what we do now is we just use in the marina we go just a sort of how do you say? It's not a normal plug, but it's a industrial three-phase power plug.
Right,
So
right,
in
right.
in any marina,
Yeah,
so they have the 5 pins, and it's like it's
yeah.
very normal. Like, I have not come across a marina that does not have this.
I see,
Like,
I see.
they all have this. Um, so this really works well because then you can charge in maybe 8-10 hours, sort of this time
Yeah, you
frame.
just leave it in the night and you're good to go. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And you can do everywhere, right? So that's super.
Hmm.
Like, there's not one marina that doesn't have this infrastructure. Um, you can even go charge slower, but then you maybe need more like 20 hours, which is a bit.
Yeah,
But you
it's a
could do
lot.
it, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
you could do it. Like,
I
so
can see that being the use case. If, for example, I am a sort of weekend user, right? That I just go on the
exactly.
weekends
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then charge it at home. I can see that, yeah,
yeah. But
happening.
I mean, I think, like, if you have an electric stove in your home, you have three-phase electric, and you can charge
Right.
this boat pretty quickly. Every marina has it. And then the next phase obviously is fast charging. So what we see, like you call it supercharging, which is sort of the Tesla network, but
Yeah, yeah,
fast
pretty much.
charging is basically what we call DC charging, right? So direct
Hmm.
current. Um, and that is a little bit more complicated. But there are players in the market that are developing this. So the most prominent one is Aqua Superpower, and
All right.
they are building a network of fast chargers in marinas. And I think they're a very interesting company. They really see the opportunity that that if there's such a network, then the market will really open up. And if they are the first one to lock in all the prime spots, they're in a good position to
Hmm.
benefit in the long term. But they play the long game, and I applaud them for that.
Yeah.
And that would change the game again. So if that is really in place, then you can go from, for instance, you go from Cannes to Monaco, uh, and there you plug it in a fast charger, and you come back.
Right.
Um, and um, and this, or in some, if there's like on a big lake, there are marinas with nice restaurants, and you go from one side to the other side, you know, and you charge it up, or you come back like you do if you do a more commercial approach, like you have, for instance, like three groups in a day, one in the
Uh-huh.
morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening, you know, and between those groups you plug it in and you're good to go again. So commercial applications, uh, like fast charging, makes a lot of sense.
Yes, yes, it definitely does make a lot of sense, especially because from the perspective of not an owner but just a tourist, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you like to know, hey, that jet looks really cool. What is that thing under the actual boat? Those sticks
yeah,
coming
yeah,
out.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting, and you wanna go for it. So naturally, you don't want to
yes, yeah.
face the obstacle of it's charging. Sorry, come back in tomorrow or something.
No, 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 no. But so it's a sort of a gradual approach. I think the baseline
Hmm.
is super easy, and the sky is the limit. Sort of. It's very different than hydrogen. I mean, there's a lot of talk about hydrogen
Yeah.
always. So I was involved in hydrogen quite a bit, but the infrastructure is really a massive obstacle, and it cannot hydrogen infrastructure cannot grow organically. It has to sort of grow with a sort of a big bang
Yes.
implementation,
Yes.
and
Definitely.
nobody wants to put up the money to build this infrastructure. So it's very hard to grow. Whereas, like
Right.
I said, every marina you can take the 8S and you can plug it in. Actually, we made it so that if you have a charger for your car,
Oh, that's
it
cool.
will you just on the trailer, you just
You
put it
use
next to
it.
the
Yeah.
car charger, you plug it in, and it charges.
Wow,
It's a
that's
car
cool.
charger. Like,
That's
so
actually
so
pretty nice.
so yeah, yeah, that works. It just works.
Right. Now, we're already sort of entering the final curve of
Yeah.
this interview,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
So,
very good.
before I let you go, and before I let the topic of the boat go, which is the coolest thing here, um,
Yeah.
I'm very curious though as to what is, in your opinion, the sort of the impact that the 8S is gonna have once you already see it like everywhere. Like, how disruptive do you think this really can get?
Um, yeah, so the way I see it is like if you go again, the reasoning, sustainability, high speed,
Hmm.
you have to go electric, you have to go hydrofoils. Then like if you go electric, there are only two avenues. Like you go slow or you go hydrofoils. If you go fast, if you want to go high speed, you have to use hydrofoils. The,
Hmm.
the the laws of physics are quite strict.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I
know,
cannot
they
bend them.
you cannot negotiate with them, you know. So I'm very convinced that hydrofoil electric is the future of high speed boating.
Yeah.
Now the question is like, what is Edorado in that picture, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so the way I see it is that we start with boats like the 8S, and there will be 12 meter, and then there will be a 16 meter. So there will be larger versions of this
Hmm.
boat, but we call them flagships. So they are like the proof of the concept. They are the
The proof that
the
it can
carrier
be
of the
done.
brand. Yeah,
Right.
that it can be done, that it is amazing, and that the technology that we have is really really cool. But we already get this. We get the demand from the industry, from boat builders. They say, well, can you do you also sell the technology?
Right.
And so in the end, I think we will become a technology supplier. So there will be a
Wow.
sort of a layer. There's a layer of flagships, and then there's sort of branches underneath
Yes.
that supply technology to third parties.
Wow.
Um, yeah, because for if you look at the way the boat industry is built up, there's like thousands of boat brands,
Hmm.
and they don't build their own engines, for instance. They don't build their own
Yeah, it's
motors.
very rare. Yeah.
Yeah. So because developing motors is very capital intensive, and
Mm.
so they cannot afford it. So there's been sort of a how do you say accumulation of this technology in a few players, right? And yeah, so I think we Edorado will be one of those players. But then
That's. I mean, it's a very cool, but also sort of unexpected, sort of a pathway you're gonna follow. But it sounds pretty cool. Now, with
yeah,
this, I want to poach for the last time for the almost last time
yes,
your CEO kind of brain, right? Which is,
yeah,
I mean, with all of this coming, right? Not only the whole cash flow coming from
yes,
the purchases of the 8S, but also with this plan you have of sort of becoming these. I want to see sort of an OEM type of company.
yeah.
I'm very curious. What is the secret that you would say any CEO has to follow, or that you have to follow to keep this cash flow and the whole supply chain and the whole procurement in place and in check? Because it can very easily get out of hand.
Well, I mean, it is a constant challenge. Like cash is king. So yeah, so I think it's well, one thing is being frugal, so not spending more, try to spend very few little money
Right,
if you can. Like so, doing things like chunks and scale model and
right. Yeah, what you mentioned
yeah.
also
So
this sort of a very milestoney type of pattern. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So also, like if you want to try something, you try just if you want to try a retraction, you try half first, like one half. Let's build one half. Like really. And then the other thing is focus on sales. I think this is something we're very much focused on, and on fundraising. So
Yeah.
focusing on cash in is super important. Yeah,
Right, right.
building relations with investors and new relationships. Relationships tend to cost time to build.
Yes, definitely.
So I think those are the things that you can control as well.
Right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And now, as
Yeah.
I mentioned, I want to poach your CEO brain for one last time, and especially
Okay.
because you have a very
Curious.
you have a very nice career, I believe, coming from from design, then being a professor is also a very specific and very unique career
Yeah.
path, and now being the CEO of this super high end tech company. The
Yeah.
question that I have is, what advice do you have for maybe any young entrepreneurs out there who have maybe an idea that they haven't really put into paper and start working on it, or maybe a very
Hmm.
young entrepreneur that already has something in mind but they need to get this motivation to come out and share it to the world?
Mm.
What is the advice that you would share to these young people?
Um, yeah, so one yeah, it's maybe a bit complicated answer, but it's a tool I've been using quite a bit, which is it's called a multivariable decision matrix. It sounds terrible, but it's a but it's like when you have options in life, right?
Yes.
You can think about, okay, I could pursue this idea and do a startup. I could find a job, and have a career path there, or I could travel the world and develop myself further, or
Yeah.
so those are you can list options quite easily, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other, if you make a matrix, then you have things like the variables. So what are the things that you consider to be important? So making money in the short term, making money in the long term. What
Mm-hmm.
will my parents say? What will my friends say? Do you think it will have impact in the world? Or, I always put my personal favorite, the wow factor. Does it make me feel go like, wow? And if you make a matrix of your options and your variables, and you can just you can just score. You
Mm-hmm.
can score, you can fill in every part of the matrix, you can put a score. So, like this idea of traveling the world is really wow, but like it doesn't make any money. So the money, two, wow, nine,
Right.
and my parents, mwah, five. So you rank all your options, and you'll see that patterns emerge. You'll see that where your energy is, where your passion is. You also see where the obstacles are. So, for instance, if short-term money is a problem, but everything else scores super high, like impact in the world and wow factor, and
Mm-hmm.
it has real potential, but
Wow.
like the short-term money is a problem. Okay, so how will I solve this short-term problem? So, for instance, I could do a part-time job and
Right.
still do everything. So that's how I started my first company. I did a part-time job, and I just started working on the big Formula Zero. Is a big
Mm-hmm.
dream, massive dream, but part-time job just to make sure I could sustain myself to get from one goal to the next. But at least I know I was working on the one that would maximize my outcome.
Wow.
So it's a bit complicated answer, but it is very useful.
It is probably the most engineering answer I've had to that question, but it's great. I mean, I really like this approach of these matrix, and I agree with you. Patterns do emerge, so
Yeah.
so it's definitely something I'm gonna try out myself. It's actually
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah, yeah.
cool.
You should really do it, and it's super easy. And in China with my students, I would always make them do it, always. And it gives good outcomes. And maybe one small correction: I'm not a professor, because that's in university that is always a bit of a thing. So I
Oh,
was I was a lecturer, but,
you're a
but
lecturer. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
I mean, you still are an academic at the end of the day,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
which
yeah,
is
exactly.
definitely true. But I believe that is the perfect end to this interview, Hodert. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for
Thank you
being
very
here.
much.
Before I let you
Thank you,
go,
Sam.
I appreciate that. Before I let you go, where can we find you and Edorado? Where can we find you in social media and the website?
So the website is at edorado.com. So edorado.com, edorado.com. And yeah, and every social, you can find us on LinkedIn. Just type in Edorado.
Yeah.
On, I think there's also on things like what's it called? The well, like Facebook and the other ones there,
Yeah,
it's
the
called
social
Edorado.
media, right?
The social media is often called Edorado Marine, but if
Right.
you just type in Edorado, I think we'll pop up.
Yeah, most likely. And I do have to say, highly recommend it. Go and watch both the Instagram, no, sorry, the LinkedIn and the website. The showcases you do of the boats are amazing. They're really cool.
Thank you,
They have
thank
this
you.
wow
I'm glad
factor
to
you
hear that.
mentioned. They're very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So this is, see, there it comes.
Yeah,
So
there it is.
I like to work on something that inspires me. I cannot work on dull things. Sorry.
Well, you definitely don't right now. It's a very cool. Thank you very much for that. Now, for everybody
Thank you
out
very
there,
much, Sam. And thank
appreciate.
you for your interest in what we do. And I wish you the best of luck with your program.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
we'll stay in touch for sure.
We definitely will. Now, before I let you go, and for everybody in the audience, just remember we have a lot more information, interesting articles, short content, and a lot more interviews on our website, buildernation.io, and as Builder Nation across all social media. We're going to love to hear from you. Thank you for being part of this community. Godert, thank you for joining us in this ride. Appreciate it a lot. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye. Good evening.
Goodbye.
When building the future is your priority, tedious procurement processes should be last on your list. The problem is that purchasing data is scattered across spreadsheets, receipts, emails, and messages. Tracking it all sucks and makes it easy to commit mistakes. Introducing the Control Hub Way, the all-in-one purchasing software for hardware companies. Buying parts, services, or office supplies? Submit a quick purchase request to buy from your list of approved vendors, or buy from a new provider. Buying from approved vendors is even easier. Import your shopping cart directly into your purchase request using our checkout integrations. When the order is ready, submit it for approval. We'll ping all pre-designated approvers both via Control Hub's website, email, and Slack notifications for a faster turnaround. If you need a PO, we got you. Generate it in one click. Online purchase? Boom, virtual card. Do an automatic 3-way match, pay invoices, and sync everything live with QuickBooks or NetSuite. Purchasing just got a lot easier. Control Hub. Get back to building.